Morning, y'all. What's going on? Rasati out here live in Singapore. It's about 9:30 on a Wednesday, and luckily for me, it's a teacher administration day or something like that. So baby girl's out of school. She's snoring right beside me, but I wanted to get on here and talk about something that I'm slowly realizing, right? I know that journalism took a turn for, I don't know if it's better or worse, when people started writing columns like how to do this and how to do that. And honestly, I think it all started with 1999's how to, what was it called? I'm sorry, 10 Things I Hate About You. All the list making articles that came out, right? So there's 10 things you can do for this and 10 things to heal grief and how to get over your ex and all that stuff. The next movie that came out was in 2003 called How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And that was, well, specifically about a journalist, columnist who was writing about how to pretty much get anything you want. But the way that they simplify all these things, I know it's cute and it's fun and it's amazing to read. You kind of have hope because it's not so many steps or whatever, but honestly speaking, I don't think it's ever that simple. Honestly, what you can do is start to learn how to notice things, and noticing is not so bad. Noticing is fairly easy, but to get to the root of a problem, right, is not that easy. Let's look at it from an architectural standpoint. A lot of people here in Singapore are buying HDB, or they're trying to buy new condos because they trust that new condos means new plumbing, new piping, new electricity. Everything is up to code. You don't have to worry about anything that's been there for over a couple of decades. But if I were to buy my mother's house right now, I know for a fact that I would have to replace all of the copper plumbing. And piping, because the copper expands and contracts so much that there ends up being holes along the piping, and that would cause leaks. But here's the thing, everything's covered with soffits and molding. So behind the molding, we'd have to figure out where all the piping runs to be able to fix the problem. So on the surface, everything looks great until you see a wet spot somewhere on the wall, or you see, water collecting in a specific area of the bathroom. So from there, you need to figure out, okay, well, where is this coming from? What is the actual problem? And then how do we go about solving it? Now, I've systematically replaced some of the copper piping in my house, mostly because I didn't know it was a problem until there was a puddle somewhere. So I've had to replace the piping in my kitchen. I've had to replace the piping in my laundry room. And eventually I will replace the piping in my bathroom. But right now it's not an urgency because we're expecting a wet floor in the bathroom anyway, right? It's an old-fashioned walk-in bathroom with, a door to section off the shower area to the toilet area. But even then, there's a drain on either side so that we can actually wash the floors and have everything drain off that way. So honestly speaking, on the surface, yeah, sure, if you see something wet, this is what you do, quick fix. But if you want to make sure that that problem does not, what is that word I'm looking for, that happen again, what is that word I'm looking for, so we make sure that the problem does not persist. We need to dig a little deeper and figure out where the problem actually started, or what actually is the problem. So for me, what I know right now is, even though I've replaced the piping that I can see, there is a lot of piping running behind the crown molding in my house. I don't know if you call it crown molding here, but they're soffits basically. I'd have to break all the soffits and then look for where the piping is in order to stop and really fix the problem. The same thing goes with your emotions. On the surface, you see people who get mad real easy. They have short fuses, right? But you don't know what the trigger is. You don't know what it is that makes them go off the deep end. I know I went to a funeral recently and I had someone tell me, hey, yeah, we don't associate with that person because he's bipolar. It's not a bad thing to have a mental disorder. It's not a bad thing for them to be able to tell you, okay, you swing from hot to cold really fast, and so we are going to name it bipolarism, but we don't actually take the time to sit down and talk to that person and figure out where it's coming from. Now, even though I was a little miffed at the labeling of this young man, I know him from way back. I know he triggers me because of the way he speaks and the way his mother speaks to him. All of that kind of is a big deal, right? But I also know that it's the way he was raised, the things he was taught to believe in, it's the way he was allowed to cope as a child. So now those habits are super, super habits, and it's going to be a lot harder to break. But if someone were to sit down and talk to him and get through all of the sarcasm and all of the politics he loves to talk about, I'm sure we'd finally be able to find a solution. But most people can't get through the sarcasm and the politics because it's that thick, right? So honestly speaking, I love the how-to guides. I think they're fun and entertaining, but I don't think they really give any real work. Case in point, I used to work with a couple people online who were coaches as well, and they'd be like, 5 steps to do this and 5 steps to do that. Yeah, we've simplified everything, but what we don't teach is troubleshooting along the way. Yes, you take this step after this step after this step, but if you encounter this, this is what you do. And if you encounter that, that is how you handle it. We don't do that in society. We want the quick fix. We want to be able to fix it and not really have a real full length conversation with you because we don't have time for that. Who got time for that? Right? So I really, really encourage you guys, as fun as all of these guides are, and everyone's trending them right now. You have a list of, signs of emotional abuse, signs of a narcissist, how to handle a narcissist. All of those things happen, but guess what? I don't believe in black and white. I know there's so much gray in the world, and then so much gray matter that exists that we need to really deal with. So honestly speaking, as fun and as entertaining as it could be to take 5 steps, I know a lot of you guys out there get your hopes up, take the 5 steps, and they get frustrated because sometimes it fixes some of the surface level symptoms, but a lot of times that lesson persists. It may be a quick fix for a little while. It may fix you for a little while, but eventually you're going to need something more than that. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here talking to you guys about all these things. I'm not here to demoralize you. I'm not here to, shoot down all the options that you have before you. Trust me, there is misinformation overload out there. It takes a lot of trial and error to see what works for you and what doesn't. But the bottom line is you're going to need someone who has some experience, who has been through some of the things that you're going through, that is able to at least give you another perspective as specific to your particular needs, because every one of us is different. Every one of us. Honestly, there are some people out there that are allergic to Panadol. There are people out there that are allergic to ibuprofen. They can't take it. This is why when you go into a triage situation at a hospital, they're going to ask you, are you allergic to anything? And that includes foods, because the foods have certain chemicals in them. So if you tell them what foods you're allergic to, they'll be able to tell, okay, well, I don't have any of that chemical in this medicine, so it might actually work. This is why people have been studying brain scans for over 40 years. 40 years of Zen has been studying brains forever. And they know that no two brains are alike. No two thought patterns are alike. They know that the stimulation in a brain is not the same as the person next to you. All of those things are very, very characteristically individual. So while the 5 steps to mastering grief might be great and the 12-step program in AA might be perfect, it won't always work the way you expect it to. So you got to give room for, hey, okay, contingency plan. If this happens and you find that it's not working, let's try this instead. And that's where a coach could really help. We are based on practicality. We are based in reality. We're trying to teach you from our experiences. And if our experiences aren't good enough for you, guess what? We're willing to go out and do the research. We're willing to go find an answer that might be something that you could try. And lucky for us, it's not based in medicine. It's not based in chemically induced behavioral modification. This is all based on practical work. If I tell you, hey, you're telling me you have problems sleeping, and I tell you, hey, why don't you cut off all your electronics by a certain time and get used to a specific routine before you go to bed every night, you can train yourself to fall asleep. But people don't talk to you about, hey, what all do you do when you're sitting on your bed? Do you read a lot? Do you play a lot of games? Do you sit on your bed and do computer work? Because that's also training your body to realize that, your bed is not just your bed for resting. Your bed is your place for work. So sometimes it's hard to clock out. It's hard to turn off everything and go to sleep because you're used to sitting on your bed and doing other things than rest and sleep. Okay? So I'm hoping this helps you guys. I know the rise of the how-to guide has been insane over the past 20 years. But I think it's good time for us to start digging a little deeper, for us to getting a little more involved, to find out, how does it work for me specifically? I know a lot of people are out there buying up every how-to they can. I get it. I did it for a while. I have a pretty good stash on my computer, actually. But while I went through all of those guides, not every step helped me. I had to collate from 6 or 7 different guides to figure out what worked for me, how to troubleshoot for me. And a lot of times that also involved other YouTube searches so I can see how people were doing things. And eventually I had to call the helpline for the product itself. Honestly, Elementor, I love it. But there were some things in the YouTube guides and the how-to guides and the blog pieces on the website itself that did not help me specifically. Same thing with Libsyn. I had to call them and say, hey, I don't see my podcast on YouTube. What do I have to do? And they were able to look at it from their point of view because they deal with it ongoing, right? People calling in with the same questions over and over again, they know exactly what to go and ask you. Now, those people that you call in for IT support and they say, have you turned it off and turned it back on yet? Yeah, that's not the same thing, okay? The specific situation for you, the specific symptoms, things you've already tried, those all factor in. So please, don't get frustrated when you see a how-to guide and it doesn't work. Don't go and write a bad review and tell everyone, oh my God, they're lying about what they're teaching you or what they're promising you. It's not like that. You need to know enough to ask a little bit more. You need to be able to tell people, hey, this is the level I'm at. Do you think this is a good fit? I hope that makes sense, you guys, and I hope this helped. I will catch you again soon, but in the meantime, y'all take care. Night.